Good morning. This month we launched on a study of One River, Many Wells, the book by Matthew Fox, a book about deep ecumenicism in which the author Matthew Fox is bringing to us, the readers, the common heart of the religions of the world. And last week the idea was that your practice, whatever it is the pump that is reaching deep down into the one river. And the author shares this idea with us. It says that if what you are practicing isn't deepening you in all the things that are important to you, like love and compassion and connection, then you might consider spending more time with your practice, doing it, or finding one that does deepen you. Now this week, the next part of the book is about relating to divinity, or as the song said, understanding how to be a more conscious opening for divinity to flow through us. He begins by saying this: divinity comes by many names. We live in a time when we can hear many ancient and many new-sounding names for God. That is a good thing, for it can open our own souls to greater possibilities. 21 years ago, when I started here at the Center for Spiritual Living, teaching the introductory classes to spirituality and to the metaphysics of this teaching, what I noticed in the beginning classes, and I still encounter it, is the number one stumbling block that people have: words. Particular words: God, church, religious, science. Because our name used to be the Church of Religious Science. So we worked with this, and eventually we were able to change some of the words. That's how we got to our current name, the Center for Spiritual Living. And I remember one lady saying to me, "It's such a delight to come here now. I couldn't step foot into the place when it was called the Church of Religious Science." That's how much a block a word can be because of what it stands for. And it's part of the reason why here we don't really use the word prayer as much as we use another borrowed phrase: spiritual mind treatment. It means prayer. Because of the block that the word prayer means for some people. And when I started to explore the meaning of the word God for myself, that was when I first came to realize that not everybody is thinking of the same thing. See, I didn't know that. It means different things to different people. I guess you and I might want to think that when we use a word that it's going to be universally understood. But it is not so. Even if I say the word chair, I don't know what images are rising up in you. I don't know what it means to you and where that came from. And is it okay for us to discuss your image of chair? Can we share our understanding and thoughts about chair and maybe compare them? See, if I say chair, maybe for some people, the image that arises is that soft, overstuffed chair in the living room from which grandma used to read stories. Maybe for somebody else, it's that hard, uncompromising, folding steel chair in the kitchen that was an embarrassment because the family couldn't afford anything else. For some people, when I say chair, they think rest, sanctuary. Maybe for others it evokes the image of a time when an unfortunate fall caused a child to lose a tooth. I don't know what it evokes in you. The word chair is just pointing to something. It isn't the chair itself. It means different things to different people. So what is your concept of chair? And where does it come from? Where did you get it? And can we talk about it? And is it possible to evolve out of that? like your word, God. Where did it come from, that understanding that rises up in you? I can see why in some faith traditions we are encouraged not to fixate on any particular name. Indeed, in some faith traditions, the word isn't even written, neither is it pronounced, because it isn't the thing itself. To sit with that. Where does my personal idea of God come from? I know where I think mine comes from: childhood. I remember when conversations in the family would unhappily stumble upon the topic of God, that things suddenly changed and the conversation became all constricted. It was characterized by an absence of clarity and definition. And we were in this conversation as if discussing a topic that should not be discussed, yet should be understood. So for me, the topic God was shrouded in mystery, as if I had, when you make a mistake of etiquette, but you don't know what it is you were supposed to do? That's how I felt about God. And so it took me a while. I had to begin to explore what God was on my own later. And I got to tell you, it took me a very long time to feel comfortable even being able to do that. You weren't supposed to ask. You were supposed to know. In my family, at least. I found a lot of relief when I started reading about other faith traditions and becoming exposed to other ways of thinking about what God is. Like in the Hindu tradition, where it is sometimes said that there is only one Rama, one God, and he is known by 1,000 names. Or like in like that long list of names known as the most beautiful names for God from the Muslim tradition. A side note, in all the years I've been here and teaching the introductory class to spirituality, in my recollection, I think there's only ever been one practicing mainstream Muslim that has ever come through our classes that I know of. It was so wonderful having him in the class and seeing our system through his eyes. And upon completion of the class, he said something so interesting to me. He said, I love this place, and I love that you're open to different faith traditions. But I've got to tell you that everything here is steeped in Judeo-Christian language and imagery. And there really isn't a sense of being welcome here in that regard. That was really eye-opening. And it's part of the reason why I started to create the stations around our center that highlight and illustrate different faith traditions with icons from different faith traditions so that we could expand our own understanding of what a center for spirituality might revere. Different paths. If you've ever taken our introductory classes, you know that on the conclusion of the class, at the conclusion, each student makes a presentation having to do with their own spiritual experience. And this Muslim student, what he did for his project was he presented a plaque that he had made of the 99 most beautiful names of God in Arabic. It is used as a meditation. And they appear also in the book here. So I'm going to read them to you and offer them to you as a meditation. You might even close your eyes and see what arises. The fashioner, the maker, the creator, the majestic, the compeller, the mighty, the protector, the giver of peace, the author of safety, the holy, the sovereign, the merciful, the compassionate, the all-hearing, the dishonorer, the honorer, the exalter, the abaser, the expander, the constrictor, the all-knower, the judge, the provider, the bestower, the dominant, the forgiver, the maintainer, the preserver, the most great, the sublime, the appreciative, the all-forgiving, the great one, the patient, the aware, the subtle one, the just, the judge, the all-seeing, the trustee, the truth, the witness, the awakener, the noble, the loving, the wise one, the all-embracing, the responsive, the watchful, the generous one, the glorious, the reckoner, the noble, the finder, the self-subsisting, the alive, the giver of death, the giver of life, the restorer, the beginner, the counter, the praiseworthy, the protecting friend, the firm one, the most strong, the source of all goodness, the most exalted, the governor, the hidden, the manifest, the last, the first, the deferrer, the forward bringer, the powerful, the able, the eternal, the one, the withholder, the enricher, the self-sufficient, the gatherer, the equitable, the Lord of majesty and bounty, the compassionate, the pardoner, the avenger, the acceptor of repentance, the patient, the guide, the inheritor, the everlasting, the originator, the light. And in that section, Matthew Fox talks about this practice of reciting and meditating with these words. He says, a peace and deep insight are gained from praying these names and reciting them as a litany or a list, or just settling on meditating on one of them, one at a time. It expands the mind and soul to grant divinity a diversity of names. And he talks about it in the book, how it's a wonderful practice into understanding our own place, where we are with this. And as we listen, we can see how many of these apply and then how many, in our opinion, do not apply, and where we are with it. We notice which evoke a response and which evoke a reaction. Also, he has in this book a kind of warning about this exploration of divinity, that when you begin the exploration, you might encounter closed-mindedness, and it might be in you. You might enclose attachment to a way, and it might be in you. And there's this humorous warning that comes in the words of the Sufi poet Hafiz. Dear ones, beware of the tiny gods frightened men create to bring an anesthetic relief to their sad days. I take that as a reminder to not try to trap God in smallness for me. Especially with this assignment, because I want to ask you, what is your litany of names? What is your list of names, the most beautiful names of God? Have you made that list? What an amazing project to take on. We could do that from our own faith tradition, especially if we use that statement, what we believe, that is on our website at www.cslsr.org under what we believe. There's a beautiful statement of belief. If you go through it and you extract the names, the possible names, you can create a litany. It might go something like this. Again, I offer it to you as a meditation. the thing itself, the living Spirit Almighty, the indestructible and self-existent cause, the one, that which lives in and through all creation, the infinite self-knowingness, the Spirit incarnated in everyone, the immortal, eternal, and continuous one, the forever and ever expanding one, the inner heaven, the ultimate emancipation, the unity of all life, the personal, indwelling revealer of truth, the universal Spirit, the universal mind, the universal law, the creative mind, the power of wholeness, the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, the eternal self-givingness. Oh, it is such a wonderful practice to dwell on the names of divinity in this way. It drops deep roots in us to recite them and at the same time to begin to notice what moves when I do. Where do I get stuck? Where do I not understand? Where is there room for me to deepen my understanding? Where am I attached and where did that come from? And where am I flexible and where am I not? And am I willing to listen to and understand my own definitions of chair? He writes, in the Christian mystical tradition, Meister Eckhart offers the following prayer: I pray God to rid me of God. Matthew Fox asks, what images or projections of divinity do we need to move beyond and let go of? Well, to go beyond something, to move beyond and let go of something is helpful to first know what it is to you. So there's a great question for this week. What is my concept of God? And is there somewhere beyond that concept that I can still go? Is there room for it to get bigger? Or have I landed on the final revelation? And now I know. I don't know. Thomas Aquinas did something similar with the Christian Gospels. He took the scriptures and extracted from them all of the various names used for God. I'm not going to read that one to you. It's on page 108, and it's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I mention it because he also gave us a caveat, a warning. He said, and the divine one is none of these beings, insofar as God surpasses all things. A similar caveat in the Tao Te Ching, right? Where it says, the name which can be named is not the eternal name. So then my name that I've landed on and your name that you've landed on is all of us pointing in the direction from whichever point of the path we are all on. Matthew says, no name, absolutely no name suffices for divinity. Which is also to say that all names suffice of divinity, but on a limited scale only. Isn't that wonderful? And in my mind, I think that can be applied to religion. I would like to say, no religion, absolutely no religion suffices for the truth. Which is also to say that all religions do, but on a limited scale only, like ours. It's not the way, it's a way. A flawed and faulty way, like always. Isn't that lovely? A while ago, I was at the launching pad. That's the young adult ministry in Berkeley. And at the launching pad, I met the author of A God Who Looks Like Me. It's about the feminine face of divinity, Patricia Lynn Riley. And we got to have a lovely conversation, and she said something to me. She said, of all of the faith traditions here in America at the moment, yours, at the Center for Spiritual Living, is probably the one I feel most at home in, except for one thing. Your organizational loyalty to the Word God. And I took that in. We had a great discussion about that. It was really eye-opening. Talked about how difficult it is to separate certain words from its established meaning, like the word God, from its male identity. I mean, you can say it's gender neutral, but it's not. And we talked about how that can be a limiting factor when, personally, one is trying to expand their concept of divinity. And we talked about how even the word goddess might have similar limitations because each one represents a polarity. Neither one is completely inclusive. It got me to thinking about my own language in my own prayers. There's a prayer that I say at the end of every service almost. You probably can recite it from memory with me. It goes like this. Maybe you can say it. Know with me that you are never alone, that Spirit is where you are, that you have only to look within at any moment to know that you're guided, sustained, and uplifted by a presence that expresses itself as you in this world. In deepest gratitude, let us live our lives accordingly so that in everything that we do and say and think, we pay tribute to this idea that the natural home of divinity is in the heart of every being. Well, it wasn't always like that. You see, it had to grow and expand with me as I grew and expanded in my understanding. It used to say, know with me that you are never alone, that God is where you are. And I became less comfortable saying that. Know with me that Spirit is where you are. And then it says that the natural home of divinity, instead of God, is in the heart of every person, it used to say. I said, well, it's not just people. It's all beings. And so it started and it continues to expand. Every time I look at a prayer, every time I say a prayer, I have to think, what do I mean? It's not a recitation or a poem. It's a movement in consciousness. So it doesn't suffice just to say pretty words. I have to know what it means. I found it to be a deep and healing experience to play with gender, changing the pronouns in well-known text as I read them, like in our class material, in our classwork, to help unchain me from gender polarization when it came to divinity. And I remember the first time I picked up the inclusive New Testament written by Priests for Equality. And they went through it and they took all of the gender-specific terms and made them neutral. King to sovereign, son to child. Amazing to read it. It was an eye-opener how it increased the accessibility of the text. And it reminded me of how much I enjoy the work of one of my favorite online publishers, Nootlist. There's a friend of mine who started this, www.nootlist.com. He takes public domain metaphysical classics and updates the language and makes it gender neutral. So you read these beloved classics and all of a sudden the language is accessible in a beautiful, beautiful way. But after growing up in a polarized language convention, sometimes it's helpful to change the polarity completely on purpose to the other gender, to get a sense of where is there room to grow. Like the first time I heard Bobby McFerrin's 23rd Psalm, it goes like this. The Lord is my shepherd. I have all I need. She makes me to lie down in green pastures. Beside the still waters she will lead. She restores my soul. She rights my wrongs. She leads me in a path of good things and fills my heart with songs. Even though I walk through a dark and dreary land, there is nothing that can shake me. She has said she won't forsake me. I am in her hands. She sets a table before me in the presence of my foes. She anoints my head with oil, and my cup overflows. Surely, surely goodness and kindness will follow me all the days of my life, and I will live in her house forever, forever and ever. Glory be to our mother and daughter, and to the Holy of Holiest, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. It's not a new idea, you know. Even the Christian mystic Julian of Norwich in the 14th century was onto it. Here's what she wrote. Just as God is truly our Father, so also is God truly our mother. The deep wisdom of the Trinity is our mother. Oh, now here's the line. In her we are all enclosed. Our true mother, in whom we are endlessly carried, and out of whom we will never come. During the offering today, we will sing a song by Ricky Byers Beckwith. It's very familiar to us, Use Me. And in it there is a series of words that I think really relate to this journey of exploring the expanding concept of God. The words go, I used to think God was the Son. God is the Son. But God's so much more than the earth and the stars and all of creation. God is creator, all in all. There it is. So when we do our offering today, I'm going to invite you to sing that as our prayer. Okay? So, musicians, come onto the stage. And the ushers, please stand, and won't you take your hand in your gift and say with me, I bless this gift. I send it forth to heal and prosper. It does amazing work in the world and blesses creation.